wanna make it, just keep chasing your dream. No matter how hard it seems, we gotta keep working a little bit longer. Every day getting a little bit stronger.
Welcome to Dream Chaser Radio.
Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the world famous Dream Chaser Radio. I am your host, Will Lane. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. Today was a phenomenal day in Atlanta. I tell you, you cannot beat the weather in Atlanta. The only thing we don't have is water. But other than that, phenomenal weather. Got a little bit of rain later on, but that's okay. You need rain. Keeps the grass green. Today's show, I want to talk about putting skin in the game. Taking some risk. I think there's a lot of people out here playing small. At times, I also fall in that category. I don't play as big as I probably should with a lot of things. And I think that's all human nature, that all of us have to overcome that. You know, the fear of taking risks. And the truth of the matter is, if you want to go to the next level, if you really want to make some things happen, you're going to have to risk some things. You're going to have to risk failure, potentially. And personally, I don't really believe in failure. I think you only fail when you give up. But you may risk giving up before you actually see whatever you're chasing come true. You're going to have to risk, maybe losing your fortune. Risk losing your money. You may have to risk losing some friends. You may have to risk missing some parties. See, there's really no way you can avoid taking some type of risk if you want to get to the next level. It's almost like that's your membership fee. Which is okay. Sometimes when you're trying to get to the next level, sometimes you're too heavy. If you're carrying a lot of baggage, if you're carrying a lot of things that you don't necessarily need, you're too heavy to go to the next level. So you got to give some things up in order to make it that next step. But we all got to go through the steps. Like I was saying, you may risk losing some of your time, wasting some of your time. To become great at anything, to do anything of any substance, it's going to require time. Usually not days, usually not weeks, sometimes months. Often many cases, it's years. You may have to put dedication in for years, and whatever you're doing may not potentially work out. That's always a possibility, that it just doesn't work out. No matter what you did, that wasn't the line in the stars for you. You have to ask yourself, are you willing to risk that? Potentially missing out on some social gatherings, missing out on sleep. You gotta ask yourself that question. How bad do you really want it? Like I said, you may risk losing some money. And personally, I think money is way overrated. Okay, sure, yeah, it's great to have nice things, car, house, nice clothes, makes you feel better. But when money is hoarded, because money is just energy. So when you hoard it, it wants to go. Energy wants to move around. It wants to create. It wants to go places. So when you hoard it, you really take all of its power away. You see, a perfect example is if you take $100,000 and you put it in the bank in 1980, you never spent it, you never did anything with it, you never invested it, you never took any risk with it. The buying power of that money, say $100,000 is maybe worth, $800,000 in today's dollars. Take $100,000 in 1980 and look at what it can buy you right now. It can buy you a lot less now than it could in 1980. And that's what happens to the money. It depreciates over time. You got to constantly, all the wealthiest individuals out there are constantly taking risks. You have to, in order to keep up, in order to keep growing. They're investing in some type of investment, real estate, marketing. I personally think the best investment you can make is the investment that you make in yourself, and the investment that you make in your mind. But you have to risk losing some money. And money really, I think money really should only be used to get you to the next level, really. Not only, but that's the major. If you're going to take some risks, take risks that are going to get you to the next level potentially. I remember a couple years ago, I was going to hire I guess you can call him a life coach. And this guy was expensive. This guy's super expensive. He wanted $10,000. And I didn't do it. And he said, you know what? If you want to go to the next level, you have a love of money. You have a fear of losing your money. If you ever want to make it to the next level, Will, you're going to have to let go of that. He said, you're already making a certain amount of money. Your consciousness is already at a certain level. You never have to worry about spending money and not being able to get it back. And that's true. Once you're at a certain consciousness, your thermostat is already set for you to make a certain amount of money, whether it's through a job, whether it's, through an entrepreneurial venture. You just have to be willing to trust that. And believe me, I know it's a lot easier to say than it is to do, but you have to be willing to trust that. You have to have faith that what gets you excited, what gets you pumped, is something that you could really put your money into, put your energy into, put your time into. And next, third, you're going to have to risk your reputation. You're going to have to risk the possibility that things may not work out, and yes, everyone's going to find out about it. Risk being laughed at, risk being criticized, risk being ridiculed. Look at Oprah with her TV network. Every other day I go to CNN or something, I'm seeing about how much money she's losing. She's taking risk. She's risking her reputation. I don't think she has she doesn't have to worry about being broke. But when you're Oprah Winfrey, she's got a lot of people throwing money into that thing who have invested tons of money just on the fact that she's Oprah Winfrey. She's got to deliver. That's important at that level. The pressure to deliver once you get to a certain level is enormous. It's enormous. And fear is what's holding most people back. That's what holds most people back from going to the next level, fear. I heard a story once. It was a psychologist / hypnotist. And on this particular day, he had two different clients. First client wanted to become a great speaker, but he had a terrible fear of public speaking. So he says to the psychologist, he says, I want to be a great speaker, but I'm terrified of speaking. I'm terrible at it. So the psychologist says to him, well, tell me how you feel before you're about to give a speech. He said, oh, doc, it's awful. My forehead starts sweating. My palms get sweaty. I start shaking. My voice starts trembling. And I get this chill down my spine. He said, at that point, I know I'm about to give a terrible speech. Next client comes in. Rock star. High profile client. Everybody knows this guy. He's incredibly famous. Killer performer. But he's only confident when he's on stage. When he's off stage, he's not that confident. So the doctor says to him, well, tell me how you feel when you're confident. How do you feel when you're about to give a great performance? Oh, he said, doc, it's great. He said, my forehead starts sweating. My palms get sweaty. I start shaking all over. And I get this chill down my spine. And he says, at that point, I know I'm about to give a great show. It's good stuff. Two different people. They just frame things differently. And that's all life is. How do you frame it? Big things happen when you're a little bit afraid. When you're a little bit afraid. If there's not some degree of doubt there, you're probably not stretching yourself far enough. That's it for today, folks. Hopefully you learned something or were reminded of something you forgot. Either way, my job is done. Until the next time we talk, live big, dream big. Peace.